almost incessant epileptic fits or seizures, and there is apparently a product which is related to cannabis, or is cannabis, which could greatly relieve her symptoms, or so it is thought. But so far, the family of Eva have been unable to get access to this product because of
Simon Harris, a journalist, is a Minister for Health.
Legal obstructions.
Disgusting.
And also because consultants are not supporting the use of the product that the family believes could greatly assist Eva. Vera, tell us what's been happening.
We've been looking to contact Simon Harris for the last... Our campaign, I suppose, started around October 2015, and we've met Simon Harris on, I think it's 4 occasions now. The most recent time was after Gino and I and Brian O'Mahony and Lindsay Graham, among a number of others, concluded a walk up to Dublin.
You walked for how long was the walk?
It was 9 days. I began a walk last November as a protest against the lack of communication between the HSE and Simon Harris's office. I walked from Ahabullogue, that's my home, to Mallow.
Where's Ahabullogue?
Ahabullogue, it's in Mid-Cork. And he intervened by the time I reached Mallow that evening and asked me to stop. He said he'd help us. He said he'd meet us. And he asked me not to walk again. So I told him I wouldn't promise him that at all. I said, I'll postpone it based on you helping out Eva to see what we can do. We met him, and unfortunately over a period of time there was no progress made, and the communication broke down again between his office and ourselves. So we recommenced the walk from Mallow, where I'd stopped the last time.
What were you asking him to do?
What was I asking him to do?
Yeah.
We were looking to find an avenue to go down to be able to get medicinal cannabis for my daughter. After the meeting that we had with him the previous summer, they had said to us that we needed a paediatric neurologist to prescribe medicinal cannabis for my daughter. And I spent the summer looking for a paediatric neurologist to do that. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to obtain a paediatric neurologist, and after I concluded the walk in Mallow in November, they relayed to us that a specialist could apply for the licence, so we were able to get a specialist to put in the compassionate access application.
Specialist in what?
He's a specialist in addiction studies in Dublin, and that doctor prepared the paperwork and did all the work for us, put in the application, and it was rejected then on the basis that they changed their minds again, and they said that they actually needed a paediatric neurologist again. So
the specialist presumably didn't have what in their view was the appropriate the relevant specialties.
Indeed, but they outlined in November that it would be sufficient for him to put in the application. So unfortunately, we spent several months preparing that document, and when it was submitted, it was rejected. The meeting that we had, I think it was on a Thursday, before we began the walk on the Monday. That was the reason that I began walking again from Mallow, because we were left with no options at all. It was just, no, you haven't got a paediatric neurologist, so therefore you're not going to be able to progress this situation. However, when we met him on the Tuesday evening that we concluded the walk, there were 5 options. They included revisiting the public neurologist, secondly, approaching a private neurologist, thirdly, for Eva. Now, unfortunately, it seems that she is caring for another child in the state, and treating them with medicinal cannabis, which is an unfortunate, a very unfortunate
this
situation.
This other child also has severe epilepsy, is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, the private neurologist made immense efforts on our behalf to procure the avenue to go down to get a neurologist. She sourced a neurologist over in Canada, and the neurologist over there was willing to prescribe the medicinal cannabis for our daughter, but we would have to go there with Ava. Now, my Ava had a 45-minute seizure last Thursday, and she isn't stable enough to leave the country or to go on a long journey like that, so it would be impossible for us. So they again came around and they said, okay, we'll have a teleconference consultation between Canada and Cork, and they will in that way be able to assess Ava and talk to us. Now, between the hospital and the HSE, they declared that the neurologist was on her own not sufficient to be able to oversee Ava's care, that in our case we would need a second neurologist. So not only do we need one, but the HSE has decided that for my daughter we need two neurologists. So unfortunately we were reverted back to the public neurologist, who is unwilling to oversee her care, and then therefore we were not able to proceed any further down along that avenue. Multiple seizures. Our daughter, before we began Charlotte's Web, the CBD oil, which is legal in the country, before she was on that, Ava could have about 500 seizures every month. You couldn't measure. It could be less, it could be more, but they were seizures on a daily basis. The larger tonic-clonic seizures, Ava could experience anything up to 20, 25 of those in a day. And this was, she's only 7 now, so this is from the time that she was diagnosed at 4 months old with Dravet syndrome.
After vaccines,
she's experienced a coma before she was 4 years old. She had a heart attack before she was 6. In that instance, she had 18 seizures of the tonic-clonic variety in about 8 hours, and she had a cardiac arrest, and we've nearly lost Ava on a number of occasions, but she's just got such fight. She just comes back.
You heard doctors, the doctors that you have that have administered to her. What are they saying they can do for her?
They can do nothing more for my daughter. We have gone through 11 different forms of anti-epileptic medication. We have exhausted all of the avenues that are available with anti-epileptic medications. Now, Epidiolex would be a synthetic form of CBD oil that we haven't tried, but I have good reason for not trying that, because we were put on a list to go on a trial over in London a number of, I'd say about 2 years ago now, and we were terribly disappointed because we were very excited to take the opportunity to go on that trial, because we thought, it was a cannabis-based product which would be excellent. But unfortunately, the side effects of Epidiolex have been disclosed to be very, very serious. There was one child died on the trial. Now, the consultant said to us that, obviously a lot of the children that were on the trial were very sick individuals, very sick people. But at the same time, from my perspective, Ava's progress is extremely precious to us, and it would be terrible to risk her.
Okay, so what do you want now?
What I want now is access to medicinal cannabis, the same way that if we were residents of Germany, of Spain, Portugal, over in Italy, Greece, America, in the States in America where it's available, in Canada where it's available, I feel like, why is it that we have to jump through the hoops that we are being put through? Why is it that I received an email on Friday. Simon Harris made a guarantee in front of Gino, Richard Boyd Barrett, Billy Kelleher, Micheál Martin, and did I say Jonathan O'Brien? The Tuesday that we met him, saying that he would meet us again and reconvene to see how we got on with the options that were laid out. Why is it that Simon Harris has been sent an email to me? It's just here, where I received that on Friday, saying that there's no need now for Simon Harris to meet me anymore to talk about my daughter, because there's nothing more that Simon Harris can do. And in it states that I should contact my clinical team, and I should only contact my clinical team to talk about my daughter's condition. I don't have a clinical team that is taking care of Ava regarding medicinal cannabis. There is nobody helping us. And I mean, even the good and decent neurologist that was there, willing to do everything that she could to help us, because she really cares about Ava. She has experienced the blockades that are being put in front of her. Yeah. She's experienced and now begins to understand exactly what it is that we've been going through for the last 2 years dealing with these people. You know, she's a little girl. And if we were over in another country, if we were in Germany, if we were in any of the other 11 countries in Europe that have reasonable and careful access to medicinal cannabis, nothing outrageous, nothing dangerous, but simply professional people, professional consultants with experience of medicinal cannabis, able to gauge, you know, this child, this patient has gone through 6, 7, 10, like us, 11 different kinds of medications. Now it's time to try medicinal cannabis. Personally, I have talked to so many people in so many countries who have experienced just incredible change with their children. You know, the likes of Charlotte Figge over in America, she was getting 300 seizures a day. And that little girl now is nearly 10 years old, and she's cycling her bike. She's going to school. She's talking. She's doing everything. My Ava is on CBD, Charlotte's Web, since last October. Her seizures have reduced by nearly 90%. But from our perspective, from Paul's perspective, my husband and I, we're saying, why? Why can't we have the same opportunity that other families in other countries have to access the THC component of the plant, which will activate CBD more effectively? And possibly it's just not as good as what other families have in their own countries. We should have the same thing. We should
be growing it here.
Have to be in a position where
Europe, the world.
I'm told, do you know what? You have to take your 7-year-old child on a 10 or 11-hour flight over to another country so that you can be prescribed medicinal cannabis there. And then, when we're satisfied and went to suit the HSC and to suit Simon Harris's office, we'll bring you back then, and you know what? We might do something to help you then. I don't think that's right. You know, these are sick people. These are vulnerable, disabled children. You know, families that are torn apart. I mean, our lives have been utterly altered by Ava's condition. Everything surrounds looking after Ava. I have 3 other children. Sophia is 5, Michael is 4, Elvira May is 2. But the whole fabric of our lives surrounds Ava's seizures. And surely be to God, you know, there's an answer out there. There is a multitude of evidence out there to show that this works for families. And it's just so unfortunate that it's not being recognised and that it's being ignored. That's...
You introduced a bill in the Dáil to legalise the use of
medicinal cannabis. Obviously, we got cross-party support on the 1st of December. And at the moment, it's in limbo. And and the government are deliberately...
The bill that you've introduced is too broad.
Right. Well, I wouldn't say it's too broad at all. I mean, his recommendations are extremely restrictive. Where I would say is tantamount to medical discrimination, because they're saying it can only be open for 3 conditions. I mean, our bill is, of course it's broad, but it's broad because there's many conditions that of Ireland, and medicinal cannabis should be a treatment plan if your condition kind of adheres to that, and it's to me it's very, very straightforward. But the dinosaurs and the doll don't want that. But look at we haven't protested.
Which dinosaurs you're talking about?
Fine Gael and many other people. It's like Jurassic Park in there half the time, It really is, and they're so behind. I mean, they're going to be on the wrong side of history here. And medicinal cannabis will be recognised in Ireland. Hopefully it's going to be the 12th state. But the bill that I put forward is the cutting edge that will give many, many people the choice of medicinal cannabis. To me, it's very, very straightforward.
Well, I'm sure that a lot of people watching will be...
Could I just say one thing?
Okay.
Could I just ask Simon Harris to meet us tomorrow, please? We're going to be up in Dublin tomorrow. There's a protest outside the Dáil at 7 o'clock tomorrow night to support the necessary legislation surrounding medicinal cannabis. And I would just like, it was Simon Harris's suggestion to meet within 3 weeks. And it was he that proposed the meeting. And I think that,
He proposed 3 weeks ago.
He did indeed. Yes, he did.
And now he's refusing to.
Now he's refusing. That's why I mentioned that when I got that message in the email. That's why I said that. And I think that, it would be decent and professional of Simon Harris to meet us tomorrow and talk to us about this issue. It was he that suggested it, and I'm quite happy to meet him, wherever he wants to meet us above in the Dáil. We'll be there in the morning, and I think, she's a seriously ill little girl, and I think it's his responsibility to come and talk to us about this situation. Really, I do.
Vera and Gina, thank you for being with us. We're going to take a break. After the break, we'll talk about the Garda scandals. Do you understand?
Oh, more scandals.